Jean de Lorraine was the third son of the ruling Duke of Lorraine and a French cardinal, who was Archbishop of Reims, Lyon, and Narbonne, Bishop of Metz, and administrator of the dioceses of Toul, Verdun, Thérouanne, Luçon, Albi, Valence, Nantes and Agen. He was a personal friend, companion, and advisor of King Francis I of France. Jean de Lorraine was the richest prelate in the reign of Francis I, as well as the most flagrant pluralist. He is one of several cardinals known as the Cardinal de Lorraine. Biography. Born in Bar-le-Duc, Jean was the sixth child of 12, of René II, Duke of Lorraine, and his wife Philippa of Guelders, sister of Charles, Duke of Guelders. He was a younger brother of Antoine, Duke of Lorraine, and Claude, Duke of Guise. His younger brother, François, Comte de Lamisque, died in the Battle of Pavia in 1525. In 1520 his mother retired to the convent of S. Claire du Pont-à-Mousson, where she became a professed nun. Bishop of Metz. In 1500 baby Jean succeeded Cardinal Raymond Paradis as coadjutor of his uncle Henry de Vaudemont-Lorraine, Bishop of Metz. The chapter of the cathedral gave its consent on 3 November 1500, and Pope Alexander VI gave his consent in 1501. The cardinal was compensated for his trouble with the monastery of Esmançu in Toul. The purpose of such a strange arrangement was the desire of Duke René to keep the bishopric of Metz in family hands. Bishop Henry formally resigned the see of Metz on 16 July 1505 in favor of his nephew Jean, but, due to Jean's extreme youth, Henry continued as administrator until his own death on 20 October 1505. For that point the cathedral chapter, whose dean was the Bishop of Toul, assumed responsibility for the administration of the diocese, until Jean de Lorraine became 20 in 1518, with Jean receiving 1/3 of the episcopal revenues. Spiritual functions were in the hands of the Bishop of Nicopolis, Conrad de Hayden, Sist, suffragan of Metz. Despite his youth, on 19 October 1517, following the death of Bishop Hugh de Hazards, Jean de Lorraine was elected Bishop of Toul by the chapter of the cathedral. He resigned the bishopric in 1524. It is conjectured that Jean was introduced to the French court and met King Francis for the first time at the wedding of his brother Antoine to René de Bourbon on 26 June 1515. Cardinal on 28 May 1518. Jean de Lorraine, Bishop of Metz, aged 20, was created a cardinal deacon by Pope Leo X in his 7th consistory for the creation of cardinals. Jean was the only cardinal created on that occasion. Leo, who had been made a cardinal himself at the age of 13, could hardly refuse the King of France on the grounds of youth. On 7 January 1519 he was assigned the deaconry of Essonne-Friault in Trastevere, and his red hat was sent to him in France. He visited Rome in April 1521, at which time he was admitted to consistory. He had already returned home when Leo X died on 1 December 1521, and thus he did not attend the conclave of 27 December 1521 - 9 January 1522, which elected Cardinal Adrian Florence Wanderdel, who took the throne name Pope Adrian VI. In 1520 Jean de Lorraine was present at the Field of the Cloth of Gold, along with Cardinals Adrien Gouffier de Boissy, François-Louis de Bourbon, and Emmanuel d'Albret, but he played no political role. And indeed his non-political position continued to be the case throughout the 1520s. Cardinal Jean de Lorraine was appointed Bishop of Thérouanne on 29 October 1521, taking possession of his church on 7 January 1522. He held the see until 1535. From 1522, his career path is that of an individual who enjoys, without interruption, the favour of the king, all the way to the king's death in 1547. He enjoyed the status of favourite, along with the realities of familiar and counsellor, Archbishop of Narbonne. On the 7th of January 1524, Cardinal Jean was named Archbishop of Narbonne in succession to Giulio de' Medici, who had been elected Pope Clement VII. He held the church until his death. In August 1527, the Cardinal de Lorraine was appointed by King Francis to meet and greet Cardinal Thomas Wolsey, who had come to France to negotiate with King Francis, and to escort him to the French court. He was not yet a royal advisor or a member of the royal council, but was being tested and groomed. He was, after all, only 29 years old. Negotiations were conducted with Wolsey by royal commissioners, leading to the Treaty of Amiens, ratified by the king on the 18th of August. The treaty addressed the joint English and French reaction to the sack of Rome in May 1527 and the imprisonment of Pope Clement VII in the Castel Angelo. But the Cardinal de Lorraine had no part in that business. The principal negotiator was the Chancellor, Antoine Duprat. He was, however, one of the 4 French cardinals who were present at Compiègne on the 16th of September and wrote, under Wolsey's leadership as papal legate, to the Pope informing him that they were praying for his release from captivity and planned, if the Emperor should not accommodate them, to refuse any papal orders issued under duress. He also witnessed the investing of the Chancellor, Antoine Duprat, with the symbols of the cardinalate which had been granted him by the Pope at the request of King Francis. His growing importance is reflected in a list of precedents of 1528, in which he and the King of Navarre follow immediately after the king. Abbeys: Cluny, Fécamp, Gauze. In 1528 he was named Abbot Commendatory of the Abbey of Cluny by King Francis I, a benefice he held until his death in 1550. The monks of Cluny had tried to reassert their old rights of election, and had chosen Jacques Leroy, abbot of St. Florent, to be the new abbot of Cluny, but the king and the pope intervened, in accordance with the Concordat of Bologna of 1516, and Leroy was made Archbishop of Bourges instead. On the 1st of August 1530, Pope Clement VII granted the Cardinal of Lorraine an indult allowing him to hold and accumulate the benefices in his diocese of Narbonne and the benefices of his abbeys. On the 26th of March 1531, King Francis signed an order to his treasurer to pay his lost wages to the Sieur de Villiers, the result of a tennis match with the Cardinal de Lorraine and others on March 1. In 1532, Jean de Lorraine was named Abbot Commendatory of the Royal Abbey of Fécamp by the patronage of King Francis I. He held the abbey during his lifetime. In 1534, Pope Paul III named Cardinal de Lorraine his apostolic legate in the dioceses of Metz, Toul and Verdun. Part of his ecclesiastical preferment he gave up in favor of his nephews, as part of the strategy of establishing the family of Lorraine permanently in various benefices. Pope Clement VII died on the 25th of September 1534, having lived 56 years. The conclave of 1534 opened on the 10th of October 1534, and Cardinal de Lorraine was present as the leader of the French faction, which numbered between 10 and 12 members. The candidate was Cardinal François de Tournon, who had negotiated the marriage of Henry, King Francis's second son, and Catherine de' Medici. Cardinal Alessandro Farnese was supported by Cardinal Ippolito d'Este and his fellow Florentine cardinals who had been created by Clement VII. The Italians favoured Agostino Trivulzio, the protector of France before the Holy See and the holder of several French episcopal benefices, whose uncles were marshals of France, but he realized that he could not marshal sufficient votes to be elected. He therefore threw his support behind the oldest of the cardinals, Alessandro Farnese, hoping that Farnese's reign would be a short one and that he would be in a better position at the next conclave. Farnese was elected by acclamation on the 11th of October, the first day of voting, and was formally elected by ballot the next morning. He chose the name Paul III, and reigned for 15 years. Trivulzio died the year before Paul did. Royal Councillor. He became a regular member of the Royal Council in 1530, and in 1536 was entrusted with an embassy to Charles V, Holy Roman Emperor. He met the Emperor, who was travelling north to Genoa, at Siena on the 24th of April 1536. He spent 3 days with the Emperor explaining the concessions which Francis I was prepared to make, but Charles was prepared for war, and rejected the French overtures. After a quick trip to Rome to inform the Pope of the situation and to discover what the Pope's intentions were, Jean de Lorraine headed back north toward Bologna to try one last time to argue peace to the Emperor. The Pope, who was trying to maintain neutrality, sent legates to both sovereigns on the 29th of April to argue for peace, but it was without effect. The invasion of southern France by the Emperor was inevitable. There survives a document showing that on the 12th of July 1536 the Cardinal de Lorraine was possessed of the dioceses of Metz, Toul and Verdun, of the Abbey of Gors in southern Lorraine, and of the Castiglianes of Hattonchâtel, Dombasle and Argonne, Thilly, Maine-Gien, Fresnes and Wovre, Joudois and Champagny. In 1537 he was granted the Abbey of St. Médard in Soissons, which he held for 2 years. When the Dauphin Francis died at Château Tournon-sur-Rhône on the 10th of August 1536, the rest of the courtiers tried to delay presenting the disastrous news by telling the king that the Dauphin was increasingly ill. When Francis finally realized he was being lied to, it was the Cardinal de Lorraine who was left alone with the king by the courtiers, and he had to confirm the news of the death of the king's son. The king retired to indulge his grief without witnesses, and left it to Cardinal de Lorraine to make the appropriate arrangements. In April to May 1537, Jean de Lorraine was sent as ambassador to the emperor and granted powers to negotiate with him. He returned to court on the 17th of May. In accordance with the Concordat of Bologna of 1516, King Francis nominated Jean de Lorraine to the Diocese of Lyon in 1537. He took possession of the diocese by procurator on the 13th of August 1537, and was immediately sent along with the constable and de Montmorency on a diplomatic mission to the emperor to put the final touches on a treaty of peace between France and the Empire. They returned to Narbonne on the 13th of January 1538, and Montmorency returned to report to the king at the end of January. In May and June the pair at Nice engaged in additional negotiations with the emperor. On his return he resigned the administration of the Diocese of Lyon in favor of Cardinal Ippolito d'Este, who was appointed by King Francis and whose bulls were dated the 29th of October 1539. The Cardinal de Lorraine had been administrator for only 2 years and 2 months. The Cardinal de Lorraine travelled with King Francis to Aigues-Mortes for his meeting with the Emperor Charles, which took place between 14 and the 17th of July 1538, and was present at least one private meeting. On the 14th of August 1540 the Cardinal de Lorraine renounced all his interests in the succession to the the Duchy of Lorraine in favor of his brother, for a consideration of 50,000 francs. On the 22nd of March 1542, King Francis signed letters ratifying the nomination of the Cardinal de Lorraine as abbot commendatory of the Abbey of Blanche-Couronne in Brittany. A document of the 11th of April 1544 indicates that the cardinal was possessed of the abbeys of Fécamp, Saint-Ouen, Marmoutier and the priory of La Charité, from which the king had ordered extraordinary cutting of old stand trees in the forests for the purpose of building galleys. The cardinal was instructed to deliver the timber to Rouen at his expense. Patronage. The cardinal was also an open-handed patron of art and learning, as the protector and friend of the humanist scholar Erasmus, the poet and translator Clement Marot and the satirist Rabelais. It has been argued that the character of Panurge in Gargantua and Pantagruel is based on the Cardinal de Lorraine, and his residence at the Hôtel de Cluny. In 1527, upon the recommendation and urging of Erasmus, the Cardinal de Lorraine took on Claude Chansonnet as his chancellor. In 1537, Benvenuto Cellini, the Florentine jeweler, sculptor, and medalist, was in Paris, and was commissioned to create several pieces for King Francis I. On one occasion, the king invited Cellini to an after-dinner gathering, at which he found himself in the company of Mme. d'Estampes, the Cardinal de Lorraine, and the King of Navarre and his wife, Marguerite, the sister of King Francis, the Dauphin and the Dauphine. Cellini produced a medal of the Cardinal de Lorraine. The reverse shows the allegorical figure Truth, holding a mirror and a compass, with the legend Sic Itura di Astra. In 1549 at Piacenza he met the Franciscan André the Vet, one of the future chaplains of Queen Catherine de' Medici, and encouraged him to make his journey to the Holy Land and the Levant, which began his career as a cosmographer. Cardinal.Jean de Lorraine participated in the conclave following the death of Pope Paul III, which began on the 29th of November 1549. The Cardinal de Guise, Jean de Lorraine's nephew, had been instructed to support the Cardinal de Lorraine, then the Cardinal de Tournon, and any other French cardinals. Failing those, he was to work for Salviati, Ridolfi de Cupis. Ridolfi took himself out of the contest when he died during the conclave. It is recorded that, on the 15th scrutiny on the 18th of December, even before Guise's arrival, Lorraine had received 5 votes. Jean de Lorraine, though, did not arrive in the conclave until the 29th of December, by which time alliances and antipathies had solidified. In the evening of 7/8 February 1550, Cardinal Giovanni Maria Sarchi del Monte, aged 63, was elected and chose the throne named Julius III. Julius III was crowned on February 22, 1550, the feast of St. Peter's Chair. The Cardinal de Lorraine died from a stroke in Neuvy-sur-Loire on the 10th of May 1550, on his way back to France from Italy. He was buried in Nancy in the church of St. François des Cordeliers. In his last will and testament, he left 30,000 livres to the poor orphans of the 3 bishoprics, Metz, Toul, and Verdun. Bibliography. Bellinger, Yvonne ed. Le Mécain natal influence des Guises. Actes du colloque organisé par le Centre de recherche sur la littérature de la Renaissance de l'Université de Reims, Paris. Honoré Champion. ISBN 978285203-689-5. Carroll, Stuart. Martyrs and Murderers, The Guise Family and the Making of Europe. Oxford, OUP Oxford. ISBN 9780191619700. Collignon, Albert. Le Mécain du Cardinal Jean de Lorraine, 1498–1550. Annales de la 24 EANNEAQT, FASC. 2. Paris. Burger-Levrault, Friedman, Richard. Le Cardinal de Lorraine, un prelate de la Renaissance mécène de la musique. Le mécanisme influence des guises. Actes du colloque organisé par le Centre de recherche sur la littérature de la Renaissance de l'Université de Reims, Paris, 161–173. Machon, Cédric. Les richesses de la faveur à la Renaissance. Jean de Lorraine et François.Jean. Revue d'histoire moderne et contemporaine. 50, 35, 36, 39. Retrieved 6 May 2016 via JSDOR. Petruccelli Delegatina, Ferdinando. Histoire diplomatique des conclaves. Tome 2, Paris. A. Lacroix, Verbocovenaci, pp. 23–64. Gulick, Guilhelmus van Conrad Jubel. L. Schmitz-Kallenberg, ed. Hierarchia Catholica Mediae AVI. Volume 3. Munster, Sumptibus Aetipus Librariae Regensburg Winnie. Barbiche, Bernard, de Dainville Barbiche, Ségolène. Les Legats Latriens Français les Facultés XVIE Sickles. Archivum Historiae Pontificae, 23–93–165. Retrieved 9 May 2016 via JSDOR. Raudord, François. Le Cardinal de Lorraine, François de Guise Joachim du Bellay. Le mécanisme influence des guises. Actes du colloque organisé par le Centre de recherche sur la littérature de la Renaissance de l'Université de Reims, Paris, 425–442. Starkey, David. Representation Through Intimacy, A Study in the Symbolism of Monarchy and Court Office in Early Modern England. Guy, John Alexander, ed. The Tudor Monarchy. London, Arnold, pp. 42–78. ISBN 9780340652190. Gallia Christiana, in Provinces Ecclesiasticas Distributor. Thomas Sextus, Narbonnensis, Paris, Ex Typographia Regia, 1739. Gallia Christiana, in Provinces Ecclesiasticas Distributor. Opera e Studio Domini Donici Samardani, de Provincia Riemensi, Jusque Suffraganise Ambianensi, Sylvanectensi e Bologniensi Ecclesies, ubi instrumenta omnium ad calcem colliganta. T. 10, Thomas Decimus, Paris, Ex Typographia Regia. 1751. Gallia Christiana, in Provinces Ecclesiasticas Distributor. Thomas Undecimus, Rouen, Paris, Excuda bat Johannes Baptista Coignard, Regis and Amp, Academiae Gallici Archetypographis, 1759.